Entertainment.
And we are live. Welcome everybody to episode 7 of In the Brick Wall with Val. We're here today to talk about a couple of things. You read the title. You know what it is. I'm not like all the other DMs, or AKA the good DM. It's almost like a type of hero from like the monolith. Uh, it's one of those things that we've often seen, read, heard about, talked about in circles, whether it's Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, or even in person, that oftentimes we kind of talk about to say, like, okay, I would never do that or never do this. And I want to talk about it with me and the table that I'm in. We all have seen it. Everybody here has seen the title and heard of it ourselves. I'm gonna tell you what I think about it, and then I'm gonna spin it to the rest of the people and tell what they think about it. Um, for me, a good DM, I guess the air quotations, a good DM is a person basically. Um, I would describe him as about 6'6", tall, dark, brooding personality. Uh, has been with a lot of people. Is a billionaire, flies private jets, is emotionally intelligent, socially inept, um, super rich, volunteers part time, saves children in Africa, um, worked on SpaceX. He's well versed in a variety of topics and things. Basically saying basically Superman. Basically Superman, Clark Kent. That's what he is. He's a mythical, magical figure of imagination and like dreams that like you see him off in the distance, and then when like the going is the worst, he just appears like a fucking hero on a horse and
You're too
saves the
kind.
planet.
You're too kind, Val. Thank you. Thank you.
Saves the planet. That's what this guy is. If you ask people what is a good DM, he is everything. He's like a fucking superhero. It's not just like, he shows up, does his job, does his thing. It's literally everything. My tire went flat. I had a great DM. He came up to my job, changed my tire. I mean, it's just great. I mean, like, what more can you ask of this guy? Like, so for me, that's what the air quotation, the good DM, is what I understand it to be, and I think it's a very negative term. And and when I hear like I'm a good DM, or um, you're not a good DM, something like that, it almost is like, ugh, God, dude, it's like it's almost, as a guy, the only way I can explain it to you is like the classic I'm not like the other girls fucking thing. I'm not like I'm not like all the other girls. It's like, okay, you're special. You're special. So that's my meaning of it, my interpretation of it. But I don't want to take anybody else, so I guess I'll go with Omen, and then I'll go to Jason, and I'll go over to Honeybear. So,
I mean,
what are your thoughts on it?
so I guess maybe I should ask you a question with regard to
Okay.
that. Where do you think that comes from? Now, is this like a player's ideal GM that they've made in their mind, or is this like someone who's played? Because I feel like anyone who's played the game sufficiently enough, that's not like realistic in any way. So are these like new players? Like where do you think that comes from?
Okay, in my opinion, this is the thing, right? Okay, I think that it comes from um, players that have a unrealistic expectations of DMs in general,
Mhm.
and also newer players in general. So it doesn't matter how long you've been playing with. If you have an unrealistic expectation of a DM, whether you're a DM that says, "Well, I do all this other stuff," and you think that makes you excellent, and anybody else that doesn't do that is not a good DM. And newer players that see people as well that are in the space, and it's like, yeah, man, just you can't shoot like Michael Jordan. Come on, bro, what are you doing, man? Like, you're not like, come on. Like, it's one of those things where D&D is the only hobby that people do casually that you're expected to be as good as a pro, right? Like, no one goes to like rec basketball and like, come on, bro, you didn't fucking 360 windmill that fucking dunk. Like no one does that. At least in my opinion. Maybe, but that's not the norm, and that's kind of my perspective.
Okay. Well, I guess in that regard, from my own personal experience, I think where that comes from is a fantasy that a player may have. Like, I've had players over the years where they, it happens to everybody where they put so much focus on their character, they want it to play out a certain way. And so they project their own expectations of what they want out of it onto you. And then, of course, that's not how the game works. It's, first of all, there's 5 other players that might be involved. So I think unrealistic expectations of what people get out of the game is just a projection of what they ultimately want. And it's hard, as a DM, that's what you want to give, this memorable experience, but you have to balance it, between 4 or 5, however many people are the table, and it's not a one-man show. So I think people just have to come in not expecting anything and just kind of rolling with it, because the Matt Mercer effect or whatever, it gets thrown around the community. That's just not how the game works, and I think anyone who's played long enough realizes it. And the only way I can tell people to break out of that habit is just run a game yourself. Trust me. Any plans, all of the hours of preparation, everything that you've done to set this up is out the window immediately. So yeah, that fantasy, I think, just comes from inexperience, and then just projecting of what people want out of the game. But it's not a novel, and if that's the story you want to tell, go write a short story or a novel. It's just a different thing.
I agree, and I want to kind of address the point too you made as well. It's really really important. People are coming from, because of how D&D is blowing up. People are coming from different backgrounds and normally don't really interact with D&D very much. Like the single player Skyrim Skyrim single player RPG side of it, and also people that are interested more in stories, like writers or fan fiction writers. They're all coming to the space, and their expectations of what a DM is again thrown into the mix of what a DM is. So everybody in all these different places are coming together to form this amalgamation of this giga mega super Chad DM, and that's just not that's just what I've seen. So I think that's accurate. We go over to Jason. What is a good what does a good DM mean to you?
Well, I'm gonna start by saying I piggyback off your point a little bit. I think a lot of these new players and a lot of people coming into the game they have their expectation of what they want, as far as there's multiple styles of games, right? There's epic hero style campaigns, there's the West Marches, there's the kind of open world sandboxy type games. There's multiple ways to run D&D, and I think people get so excited about just playing, especially with a lot of these new players coming in, that they don't take the time to actually vet their DM just as much as a DM vets the players. On both sides, they're not taking the time to truly vet the people that they're interacting with in the game. And so you may have an expectation of, hey, I want this epic heroic style campaign, and you go to somebody that's running a West March style game. Well, your expectations are never going to be met. It's an impossibility. And so then you are projecting all of that onto the DM, because you're like, you're not running an epic hero campaign. Well, yeah, that's not what I do. I run West March. So I think that's a lot of it is I think my version of a DM is for me is just somebody that's willing to be open, honest, and listen to ideas, be willing to kind of have those conversations up front, and then play the game based off of those conversations. You know what I mean? And so to me, it's just that open, honest communication with it. That's what makes a good DM, whether you're playing evil campaign, heroic campaign, West March, arena, whatever the case may be. And so I think that's where the mix-up gets thrown in a lot, is just people don't communicate very well when it comes to who they're playing with.
I agree, and I think as well too that one as well. If you check any of these, especially on Reddit, man, all these it's the number one solution to these problems that people are having. Like I said earlier in the earlier episode, communication. And also because of the rarity of a DM, right? DMs is very very rare. Like in my opinion, I say is for every one player, it's like for every one DM is like 200 players in my opinion, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if you say you're looking for a game, and it can be a terrible game, like people literally will flock to it, and because when I started, terrible, but because there isn't any DMs, the people that want a DM, he would just put up with it. So I agree. I think communication is key, and I also think as well, people want DMs to be what they want. It's almost like when I put this in relationships, but I guess only I can. It's like if you date a person and you expect them to be something that they're not, or expect them to be different than what they are, and then you're disappointed. It's like, wait, I thought you was gonna be this, person, whatever. And it's like you want to party all the time, like Eddie Murphy. Like,
Yeah.
like that's not what I wanted. So you got to be able to have you got to be able to meet people where they are. So if this DM is a combat focused DM, he doesn't like role play like that. That's what he is, or that's what she is, right?
And there's DMs that are that way. No matter what type of game you want to play as a player, there is a DM that will play that will run that type of a game. The issue is finding it.
Yes.
And so it's taking the time to not getting antsy and not getting so focused on just playing, but taking the time to find the person that's going to play the group that's going to play the style of game that you are looking for. And if that takes a year, it takes a year. But it's out there. It's just taking the time to find it.
Nathan got very lucky. Nathan got very lucky. Yeah,
100%, 100% got lucky.
And I think as well too. And I'll go over to Kathleen, but I think as well too. It's one of those things that's so hard to be patient. I think in this world and just how the world is now. Everything is like what I mean. So I think that's the nature of the
instant gratification.
Right, I agree. So then we go over to Honeybird. Kathleen, please tell us, what does a good DM mean to you?
So kind of bouncing off like what you guys have been saying, I think every DM has their like little niche that they're really good at. Mm-hmm. So you have to find who's doing that niche that you like. Like for me, I cannot DM on Roll20 to save my life, but in person, it's totally fine. But I think one of the biggest things is, as a DM, you have to be able to give up control of your story. Oh my God, John said, forgot who I was talking to. No matter what you plan, it's not going to go like that. And even like your timelines. Okay, I've got 3 hours. We're going to do this. Okay, well, probably not going to be in 3 hours. Like you just have to be able to go with it. And yeah, sometimes your players are gonna like do the most ridiculous, absurd things ever that you're like, why the hell would you ever think about doing that? But you just kind of have to let them sometimes. I mean, there's ways you can steer them back to the goal, but yeah.
I agree, and I think it's huge. I think any DM that has experience, if you think something's gonna take 3 hours, you just double it. I mean, it's like contracts. It's like 3 hours. That'd be like this is about 1 day's worth of content. It's like, nah, this is like 4 right here. They're gonna talk. They're gonna talk to the cat. They're gonna like the cat. They're gonna find a talking pig, and that's gonna be like 3 sessions. It just never goes that way.
Like an RP a full dinner.
Yeah, holy.
Yeah, I've had players just gamble in a tavern for the entire session. I'm like, all right,
yes,
well,
that's what we're doing.
If you're having fun, it's all good.
If you remember in It's Order and Risk, you guys got to that desert, I forget the name of the city, and y'all started gambling. Remember that? Way back?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. It was like, I forget. Oh my God, I forgot the name of the city. But yeah, it was when y'all, we'll talk about that inside of it. But anyway, what I'm saying is that does happen. And I want to say as well too, giving up control of the story is a DM. It's one of the toughest things to do, honestly, in my opinion, because for me, I've had to learn this the hard way. I think things are going to go a certain way, and prepping things, I think, is going to he's gonna go a certain way. Like for instance, Friday's game, I had a clear idea. I had like some branching things, but I had an idea what you guys want to do. None of that shit happened. None of it. Not even a little bit. Not even. That's. It was besides you guys going. Not even that. Boss left. I thought you guys were going to go to Boss and y'all were going to go in a tavern and it was going to be a thing. Nope. Boss left. I'm like, well, all right. That's And as a DM, you just be like, I had all this shit planned, and it's like the trigger doesn't happen. It's like, well, that's fucked. That's all fucked. We move on. So
that's when you take the whole set of notes and just tear them in half.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, man. And I had to get out of the concept of just thinking like it has to go this way or it's nothing. So for me, I just want to say that I think all that's important. I think all that goes into what I'm about to say next. So we've kind of established what a good DM means to what we've seen and what it means to us, and some of the things that it could and could not be. But what do you think these expectations of a good DM has done for the game itself? Because in my opinion, because the expectation of a DM or the person that runs the game is so high, it's contributing to the lack of DMs or people that want to actually do it in the space specifically. So do you think it's a positive thing, a negative thing, and why? And then we'll start with Kathleen reverse. What do you think?
What was the question? Is it a positive or negative what? That
is it a
standards of what a good DM is?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And why?
I feel like it could go both ways. Like, yes, with anything you do, I think it's good to have your own personal basic standards, like your hard lines. I know I'm not going to tolerate this. I know I'm not going to like this. But I do think that this idealized good DM complicates things, because if you're just getting into it and you're not finding the ideal DM for you, like I'm not going to say a good DM because it may not be good for you, but it's good for someone else. If you're not finding that ideal, you might get turned off from playing without exploring different types of DMs. So I really think it can go both ways, but mostly I do think it's kind of slowing some people down, especially newer people when they're seeing like all the streams, like the Mercer effect. Like, I mean, even though he says he's like, you don't have to DM like I do, but people get that idea in their head and they expect, like Val to come out here 80 different voices.
Hi there, my name is Sally, and I have like 30 different female voices, and I have like an orc voice. I mean, I'm like, dude, bro, I'm a carpenter, bro. This is it's like, what do you I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was just it, like not everybody can bust out 4 dialects of Elven, it's that in that sense it's not realistic, but I do think you should have standards.
I agree. And then we go over to Jason. What are your thoughts on it? Good or bad, and why?
No, I completely agree with Kathleen. I think that good. I think everybody has this idea of what is good for themselves, and kind of like I was saying before, I think that you just have to take the time to find what is good about the DM, find what is good about you as a player. But I think it's a good idea to, as a player, to experience all of those different pieces, because especially new players, they again, you're seeing content on YouTube, you're seeing content on Twitch, you're seeing these streamed games and all this stuff, and they tend to be a lot of the same type of structure, but there's hundreds of different structures out there as a way to play D&D, and I think if you don't experience that, then you don't broaden your horizon as a player to know really what you want to play. I mean, you might think that you really want to go into a role play heavy game, get into a game that's a lot of really heavy combat, style of a game, and then really enjoy that, versus all of the extra role play where you're trying to really improvise and speak off the cuff about a lot of different things. I mean, I know I'm one at times. For me, at times with role play, I have to take a second to think about it, and then the moment's passed. And if the moment's passed and then you try to come back to it, that can really slow the game down. That can really turn things negatively. So you got to be prepared for that when it comes to a game like that. You know what I mean? Like, experiencing those different things, I think, is what is going to make players and DMs appreciate each other more in the long run. Experience it all, find what you like, and then take the time to put a group together, or find a group that is together that has those expectations for yourself.
I agree. Now, I hadn't pointed that, but I'll take that in there. And then Omen John. So, what are your thoughts? Good or bad, and why?
So I don't know if I've ever personally seen it. I think some people have unrealistic expectations sometimes. I wouldn't say it's been good or bad in my own experience. I've had a couple players that are outliers, but I just assume that's just that player's problem, not maybe this idea. Yeah, but for me, you know, I started out DMing. I'd never played a tabletop, and I started with the I think the 5e Lost Minds Fan Delver, and that's where I started. And there was a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes, a lot of hanging on to the story and wanting to tell a certain kind of story, and it just fell through. And so I think a good DM doesn't care about whatever notions, you know, they have for the story. But I think one thing that I've learned is session 0, without question, is the most important part of any campaign before you start. You have to communicate what are you hoping to get out of a game. Here are some of the themes that I'd like to explore. Here are some of the influence that I have on like what I like, you know, maybe certain movies, video games, book series, just to kind of feel out what everyone's trying to get. A good DM is open to criticism and then open to bending their style. Now, you should be upfront, like, hey, you know, this is the only experience I have, but I don't know. It's a difficult thing to say that you know, this preconceived notion is bad for the community. I think what's bad for the community is people not being open to different things. You know, they want it a certain kind of way, and there's all kinds of. I think you get it in gaming culture across whatever. It's, you know, the optimized min-maxer, you know, the rules lawyer. I think it's those character flaws as people, because let's be honest, tabletops generally, you know, the type of crowd that gravitates to it, they're just, they've got some social problems. We all like to escape, you know, for one reason or the other. And so I think communication is the biggest reason things fail. It's like a relationship. A good DM,
Yes.
it's just a relationship. You have to vet your players. The players have to vet you. You have to talk about boundaries. You have to talk about what works, what doesn't work. I don't know. I don't see it as a detriment to the community. I actually just think people avoid DMing because it's hard. And it's just a lot of prep work. And
or you get stuck being the DM all the time,
and or
The
you're
forever
the
DM?
forever DM. Yeah, and then that's a problem, you know. So yeah, I think most of the stuff comes from the type of people that gravitate to tabletops, and not necessarily like an influence like Matt Mercer. If anything, he's done a really good job at getting that out to a wider audience.
Yeah.
But and I hate to blast any. I'm a D&D player. I'm a DM, so I know. You know, it's just there's some people, and you have to vet them. You just have to vet them.
I agree, but I do have a question. So, and this is about session 0, and this is my thoughts on this, well, too. This is kind of a sad caveat, but I think this is really important. This for everybody. So, I think, okay, I know Jason's DM. He's writing his own one shot, but all of us have DM before, or I've seen it. So my rule of thought is, or my school of thought is, if I make a campaign, a setting or theme, whatever like that, I think it is up to the players to see if they decide if they want to go upon that, experience that campaign style, and make characters that would how do I say, fit at least neutrally in the style that the campaign is in, then the DM tried to bend the world to fit around their characters. That's kind of my school of thought, and that's kind of a really, I think, hot point, because I've seen DMs say that no, like play whatever you want, but I've also seen DMs as well say no, you can't be the a fucking mythical zone devil fruit user in fucking D&D. I'm sorry, it's not gonna work for me. So I say this to say, what is your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on players being able to basically play whatever they want to play, and the DMs have to change the story around their characters, or do you feel like it's up to the players to make a character that fits in the setting of the world the DM is making? So I start here with Kathleen. What are your thoughts on it?
Okay, so for me, like when I'm running games, I'm typically running it for family members or my teenage son's friends. So for me, when I'm DMing, I do tend to be like, play what you want to play. I don't care. I'll adapt just so they're getting into it. They're learning what they like and stuff like that. And it's an easy environment for them to do so. And I don't feel that pressure. But this reminds me of that Monday night game we were in, and you were trying to gather players, and one had a very specific idea in mind, but it wouldn't fit. So I really like when a DM puts out their vision. This is the little hook. This is, your character limitations and stuff like that. Like, I want to know, with that basic knowledge, I will go in and tweak stuff to play something I still want to play, but that is still respectful of the time that the DM has put into creating this. Like, because really they have to do a lot of work already. I'm not going to pop in and be like, well, actually, I'm going to need you to twist this. And like, if you give me a hard no, I will accept a hard no.
Right. And for me at least, so okay, so if all you were DMs, right? And this is the thing, right? So let's say you were doing a camp, like a horror campaign, or like a campaign like a grim dark setting, or a campaign where like a, let's say, Victorian age style campaign, right? And and somebody came up to you and said, okay, I want to be a rat folk gunslinger from the Midwest, fucking, like, I don't know, anywhere else. And it's like, okay, that's totally doesn't fit within the world. There are no rat folks here. None of this here. Do you think that it's disrespectful for that player to disregard basically the entire premise of what you put forth and just say, I want to play this, make it work? Or do you think it's just like, it's just okay? And because this is sad, but this is all the same point. So what do you think? Do you think that's disrespectful, or do you think it's just like it is what it is? Okay, Kathleen.
It depends on your relationship with your DM. Like, if you can come to it and be like, okay, well, this is why I wanted to do this. Does that fit? But I think if you're, even after you're told, no, that doesn't fit, and you keep pushing it, I do think that starts to lean into the disrespectful. It's like, some things can work, but some things can't, and you can't just barge in and be like, okay, it's going to be my way or the highway. If you want it to be your way or the highway, be the DM.
Fair enough. I agree. Jason, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that's disrespectful to make a character totally off base after establishing the premise of the campaign, or what do you think about it?
For me, I say, yeah, it's completely disrespectful. I know you kind of just mentioned, like, yeah, I've not DM'd yet, but I've been in the background kind of writing a one shot that is sort of the start of a kind of a full homebrew concept that I've been putting together for a campaign to see if I enjoy DMing, do the one shot to see if I enjoy DMing. And a little bit of just the premise of it is essentially it's a very religious world, and kind of the start to the camp, there's basically a BBEG that's trying to take over the religion to take over the gods, become the only god type of a thing. And so the players would need to be backed by a deity. And so if somebody came into that campaign and said, no, I'm going to be full atheist, I'm not backed by a deity, it's like, well, that player doesn't work in this world. So it's a full disrespect for I mean, just from the start of the story to the end of the story as a DM, that you're putting together at least an idea for a campaign, and a player just goes, no, I'm just going to disregard all of it. I want to play this character and this character only. Oh yeah, that's completely disrespectful to all the work that the DM's putting in place. Like, go find a campaign that character works in. Go find a DM that's willing to have that character in the campaign, or go find a West March. Like, there's other places for you to play that character. If that's the only character you have in your head, then sorry, not for me.
Fair enough. Go over to John. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, without question, I don't even think anyone would disagree that that's disrespectful. But what I would say is that, especially in a session 0, the whole purpose of that is to collaborate. So, you may have an idea of maybe you've laid out the groundwork for the world and how that stuff works. There is still some collaboration there that, are you going to bend your whole story to fit one character? Absolutely not. But there is a middle ground where you both can kind of work together. What I would prefer is that everyone makes characters together. 5e does not do a great job as far as backgrounds. There's a lot of other systems where they can tie a party together. The classic shtick of everyone's just in a tavern when stuff happens. Yeah. I think the session 0 is important to lay out the groundwork of either what I had in mind, because there's different things. You could be running a module like, hey guys, this is the module, these are the themes, this is the setting, create a character that works there. But if a player comes in with a preconceived notion of what they want to play, they need to be willing to bend a bit. I've had players who really want to play evil characters, and that's just not the story that's being told. And like, this is not going to work out. I'm not saying you can't be an evil character, but talk to the people that you're going to be playing the game with.
See how that goes.
Yeah, that's an issue for them, and then now there's this conflict, which may be interesting to play out, but it may be an unnecessary hurdle that we have to get over, and it's much easier just to put someone in the setting that works. So I think there's some room for compromise. I think that's the purpose of a session 0, is to kind of lay out the groundwork. This is what we're trying to do. Your character concept doesn't work. Maybe if you make XYZ changes and let's work together, try to figure something out. That's the best way to approach it. Because if, I think it was Nietzsche who said, is like, the biggest enemy to truth rather than lies is conviction. If you're that convinced that is exactly what you want to do, no matter what, it's like, dude,
I can't change you.
There's no argument here. There's no room for discussion.
It just won't work.
I think we walk away, you find another group. So the whole game is collaborative. It's collaborative storytelling. You tell a story, you react, something comes out. I have a player last week, he had reached out to me. He's like, hey, when are you going to explore my character's backstory? I'm like, when are you just going, I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, like a quest or like a cutscene or something that goes back to it. I'm like, so it's a module that I'm running. I'm like, I can explore it and something will come out of it, but this is something I think is more important. It's maybe beside the question, but players forget that they have a responsibility to propel the story. They tend to forget. You don't sit back and let the DM just spin a story and create a movie around you that you get to float through. You have at least some responsibility to know what your character does and then start pulling threads, talk to somebody if you're interested, or tell somebody about your background. Like, hey, that reminds me of when I was back in the old country. We used to peel potatoes with a rusty knife, and
Right. No, I agree. I think
social contract.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and the reason why I asked this question, and the reason why I say this is because you'd be surprised. How contentious that point is. With caveats, I've seen 2 schools of thought, which is, like I said, the world bends around the player, or the players bend around the world, right? I'm more of the line with the characters are interacting with the world. They must have come from the world itself, so they must indeed bend around the world. Because if somebody's an alien and he's just popped up on Earth, okay, how the fuck did he get here? Like, where is he from? You can't just spawn him into the world.
Bjorn.
Right. Well, hey, sometimes shit just happens. But and I will say that, and there is some explanation in there too. But I will say that the biggest thing for me to take away is that I think it's disrespectful for the reasons listed, and I also think as well the reason why I think it's so almost like frowned upon to say no, you can't play that character is because going back to the whole good DM thing, a good DM never rejects character ideas. A good DM never does these things, and that's what's kind of talked about. Anything that could be deemed as sometimes as constructive or even negative, sometimes shit happens. Is always kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Put them to the fire almost, like or become a horror story or whatever. And it's one of those things where I want to tell players that are new and DMs that are new is that it's okay to say no. It's okay to say that won't work, or it's okay to say, do you have any other character ideas, or it's okay to reject the premise or concept of a character that's being brought towards you, because as DMs, we've all have been given some bullshit character ideas, and I can say that because example, somebody wants to be a half demon, half tiefling, half Azamar, half elf, dragon sorcerer that was the child of Asmodeus and Io itself, spawned from the mythical kingdoms of Mount Celestia. And I'm like, all right, okay, bro, we're in a world that doesn't have any magic or like a hell or anything like that. How's it gonna work? He's like, well, I came from a different plane. How the fuck it's things like this, guys, that I'm saying this, and the reason why I'm trying to drive this point home is that these are a lot of the concepts that they get, not as bad, but on that level that DMs get, and sometimes you gotta say, no, man, that doesn't work. So
Well,
if you're go ahead.
not to jump in, but
Yeah,
no is extremely important in life and in general. If you have to set some boundaries, but no can be such a good experience for a player. When they put all this time to get in exactly what they want out of character, there is no conflict, there is no growth, there are no obstacles to overcome. So yeah, perfect example. I had a player, he wanted this. He was the special guy. He has all these mechanics that work this particular way. I'm like, no, I don't think that's going to work out. And they're like, well, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I'm like, the story isn't what you can do, it's what you do to overcome adversity. It's what's happening right now. That's where the story happens. It's show not tell. You can't be the special whatever. I think the important thing about D&D and fantasy storytelling in general, there's a little bit of the chosen one out there, but it's important to know that these people, especially at level 1, they're regular people that stood out and overcame something to become special. And it doesn't start out special and then that story goes forward. But
I agree, and to anybody listening as well, a good example of a level 1 character is you're the strongest out of your family, or you're the most magically inclined out of your family, or out of a couple people you're the best. Like, or if you're in like a bandit gang, you're like the oldest or the strongest, like that. But it's not like you're a fucking knight commander of the fucking Forgotten Realms or something like that. It's not. That's level 1.
You can equate it to sports, man. You go to look at a high school team, like when LeBron James was in high school in Cleveland, like everybody else is a level 0. LeBron James was a level 1, and when he hit the NBA, he was level 5. Like, I mean, that's
right.
There's your progression.
It depends on the story you're trying to tell. I think 5e does a good job with the backgrounds. Like, the backgrounds are there for a reason. You're a folk hero. You did something good for your people that you stood out, but you're not slaying dragons. You're not some celestial
I want to
embodiment or
ban
some
folk hero,
avatar
bro.
or
I
you
do.
know.
If I could ban one background, it'd be folk hero because that gives the most bullshit ass background tie-ins. Yeah. So I fucking David Goliath like the strongest Night Master in the whole realm with a rock, and now I'm fleeing for my life, and I'm a hero of my
That's
realm.
okay, I guess, if it's the story. If you want to tell high fantasy chosen ones, you're going to go up against gods, or kind of a low magic setting where it's, I guess it just
Possible.
depends. But it's still, you have to collaborate at the end of the day. You both have to live in each other's world, I think.
I got another point here, and I think this one kind of ties into it too as well, really well. So the next biggest point is, and I think we've all seen this before, DMs that almost kind of don't allow or think failure in the game is negative, or players can't handle actions ending negatively towards them. So example I've seen is, and this is the biggest one I always see, is DMs are scared to death to tell players to roll athletic checks if they're dexterous. I swear, it's if they ask them to jump acrobatics, because athletics isn't like, no, it's athletics, man. That's what it is. It's okay for them to fail or realize that they need to be more athletic to parkour a fucking roof. So for me, is that example, or DMs will say, this guy's attacking you, but he doesn't kill you non-lethally. Even though he stabbed you in the back, he just knocks you out. That can be a tool that can happen, but the rate I see it happen, or the rate I hear about it, is almost as if DMs are scared to have consequences for their players, and sometimes negative and disastrous consequences for your players. And as example, did my players in Friday's campaign make 144 wishes and possibly wolf across time and space? Yes, that did happen. Did I kill them? No. Could I have? Yes. Was the consequence that they faced extremely dire, and could they have possibly died along that way? Absolutely yes. So to elaborate there, does that mean insta kill or something like that? No, but I mean, that's just my opinion. So, and I go to Kathleen. Do you think DMs are scared to give players consequences that might be disastrous or negative?
I think some are. Again, for me personally, I'm dealing with like a lot of newer players. So Pig Matt actually kind of makes fun of me because they've had to make so many new characters in my games because I'm completely opposite. I'm just like, yeah, no, you went upstairs and yelled at the hag that's flying around. Your ass is dead. I'm sorry. Like, natural consequences, guys. Natural consequences.
Consequences.
But I mean, that's also my personal personality coming through. Like, yeah, if you roll down the window, stick your head out down a rural road, you're probably going to get a face full of bugs. Like, come on.
That's
and
real.
I think I'm okay doing it because I'm trying to give them an idea of like, look, I could have let you live, but some people aren't going to. And I mean, even if I do kill them, usually because they're new, I'll come up with some like weird way, like, oh, some town folks came in and saved you from actually dying. But I want it to be real. Like, hey, you can't just do whatever you want to do. But I do think a lot of people are like, well, I don't want them to not like it. I just tend to be more of a reality check kind of person.
I am the same way, and I agree strongly. Please, Jason, what are your thoughts on that?
I think some DMs are at times scared of giving real consequences to their players. I think it's for that reason. Like, if you find a group of people that you're willing to DM for as a DM, because let's face it, I think there's a lot of very bad players out there as well that are very self-centered when it comes to the game. And so I think DMs, when they find a group of people that, especially that they are getting along well with, do want to keep that group. So they don't want to necessarily give massive consequences to actions that potentially drives the players away, I don't think it's right. I mean, if you decide you're going to jump off of a 60-foot cliff, like you're going to take 66 fall damage, like this, how it's going to go. And if you die because of it, like you're a level 1 character with your level 1 wizard, you have 8 hit points, like you're dead. Sorry. But I personally lean more towards if you're going to do something, if you're going to try something, like there is a little bit of a rule of cool. Let the consequence happen, but if it is cool enough and you don't want to give a massive consequence to the player, say it's supposed to be 66 damage and you're just like, okay, because this was so cool, I'm only going to roll 3d6. So it's going to be half as bad because I think it was cool and you were able to do something, but there still has to be a consequence for it. I think that's the way that a DM should try to navigate around that versus just going, yep, it's good and you're good.
Yeah, and I agree with you, bro. For me, with my rule of cool level, I mean, it's got to be cool. I think the bar of cool gets so lowered now. It's just like, oh, like he does an acrobatic move. That's cool. Fuck it, dude. Do it, man. Instead of just like actually like examples. You guys did cool shit in Order of Risk, but one of the coolest moments is when fucking Hagen jumped off a 200-foot fucking cliff. That's memorable. I remember that still. That's a cool moment back in my mind. So now I'm like, okay, you can do some cool shit with it. You guys did cool shit too. And in fact, coming back to life after being fucking dead, that was a cool moment. Fucking Omen being a vampire dude and coming back as like an undead super mega vampire. These are all cool moments that happened, but you just hitting somebody in the face with a sword isn't a cool moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
In general, right? It's not a memorable moment. So I think
I take it too, and just to get sorry to interrupt you, but like in our Thursday game, we were out on a ship, and we had a character decide to grab the sail rope, jump off the side of the ship to grab one of the NPCs from the ship to get them back on the boat. It's like if you want to say, okay, we're gonna roll a strength check for that. Make sure you hold onto the rope. We're gonna roll this, and you think it's cool enough, still make them roll for it because if they nat 1. All right, it didn't work. Just set the DC lower if you, as a DM, if you feel like you want it to work, but still have a chance that it fails. I mean, I think that again, I've never DM, but it's like easy DC is 10, medium DC is 15, hard DC is 20, or in that ballpark. So if you want it to work, say, okay, the DC is 10, roll me an athletics check. Like there you go, or roll me an acrobatics check, whatever it is.
Agree with that, and then go over to John. What are your thoughts on it, man? What do you think?
I think it gets dicey. I mean, I guess the first thing that happens in my own experience, there is maybe a little bit of sticker shock the first time it happens. I'm running Rime of the Frost Maiden, and there was a combat that happened, and one of the players, and they're newish. I don't think they played a lot of D&D or tabletop in general, but he was like, what, we're only level 2, this is so unbalanced, it doesn't make any sense, blah blah. And I'm like, this, after the whole situation unfurled, I mean, multiple people went down, NPC it was disastrous. And at the end, I had to talk. I was like, look, there are people in this world, it doesn't scale. This is not a video game like Skyrim where it scales to your level. There are plenty of situations that are going to be outside of your control. As far as power level, it requires different thinking. As a DM, I never want to be an adversarial DM. I think that does come out, and that does give the community a bad rap where they are taking out, everyone's witnessed it, where they take it out on players specifically. There was no way to get out of that situation. There was no, that's not cool. And I do want to point that out because not every DM is fair and balanced. I've seen it where it's just, you're dead. It doesn't matter what you did, what you said, you are dead in this situation. That doesn't feel good. But I do think having true consequences for their actions, and then, and let's be honest, 5e, as far as balancing combat, it can be very swingy. And so I do think maybe there are times where I would never say fudge it, but you do want to change maybe some of the outcomes for people to make it not so dire. But there are absolutely times where if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Like, you die. There's just situations you can't get out of where you spit in the face of a king. Like, it doesn't matter if you nat 20 on a persuasion or whatever to try to talk your way out of it. You're getting locked up, potentially kill. There's just some things that.
But DM, if I rolled a 25 on my persuasion, can I just persuade the guards to not kill me?
You can, they won't kill you. They'll just lock you up in a dungeon
And
forever.
torture you.
So, but there are absolute consequences that people have to be aware of, especially if you want it to be a living and breathing world. Like, there are people that are far outside of your power level. There are situations that can't be won by pure combat alone. You have to think, you have to be strategic, avoid it all together. There's sometimes like, you know what? I'm just going to walk away. And that's a life lesson. You see danger in general, just walk away.
Utah is the epitome of like, I'm not fucking around and finding out what that shit does. But
I do think there is some responsibility for the DM to not to be adversarial. It's very easy to like try to win at D&D to by taking it out on players. I've seen it where it's like maybe you have a combat, you want it to be nice and balanced, and there's sometimes players will just curb stomp whatever you've set up, and then you feel a certain kind of way. And I've seen DMs not take it so well, and then the players have to suffer.
That's when the players are like, "Oh, you kill my balance and counter? Well, fucking triple deadly headshots only, bitch. Cracks knuckles. You kill those wormlings? 3 young dragons appear. Fucking get fucked, kid."
Yeah, there's a difference there. Killing someone just because is not okay.
Rocks fall, you die.
Yeah,
the classic. And I agree with the adversarial thing too. That does happen, and yes, it's not good. And I agree. I think it's negative, and it shouldn't be a thing in D&D. Also as well too, it's also adversarial players that no one ever really talks about. I think we should do one on that too, because adversarial players will literally make characters that they Google online, like how to piss off my DM, and literally be like, "All right, so my character's name is Thug Muffin, and so here it is. He's a 4-way multi-class. Specifically DM, could you make that for me as well? Because I don't know how this all works." Yeah, it's like so Thug Muffin as well. So just so you know, just in case you're aware, I'm gonna pick repelling blast, and also grasp of Hadar, and I'm gonna get every single sticky spell in the game, just so you're aware, DM, and I'm gonna make you figure out how all of these works on the fly for multiple people, because I'm quickening spelling all of these Eldest Blasts. All right, now enjoy. Fuck you, DM. It's one
the ground opens and you fall into this big earthquake.
The seventh layer of Avernus, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that happens where like you have a player who they're a min-maxer, and the other people are, maybe they're like, not optimized.
Is fine. It's between min-maxing and being like adversarial in the min-maxing. Well, in my opinion,
I think just table manners in general, right? Like there are some people like after a combat start talking trash, like, "Oh, it was easy."
Suck my fucking dick, you're like, pussy.
You're like, bro, relax.
Like.
It's like, I'm sorry, I did not know you came to die today. Okay.
Yeah. Rule one at my table is like, don't be a dick. It is rule 1. Do not be a dick. And if I need to
goes
define
back to session 0.
Yes.
Right, session 0. And I agree to adversarial players. I think all the way around, it's negative to be adversarial in general at the table. Like your DM is doing something for you, and the players are coming to you, spending their time with you as well. But just understand, like, I've seen play, and this is what I'm saying. No one, DMs specifically, don't appreciate. I think for me, I don't appreciate when players pull out the most cheesiest shit I've ever seen in my life at the table, because in general, I think you're kind of interpreting the rules in a very egregious way to kind of get your way. So that way it kind of works. Example, Healing Spear before he got banned or nerfed. it's like, in theory, it should have worked the way it should have, but it's like, oh no, we can all just kind of put our foot in there, just double tap this thing like a fucking double kick drum bass, and
Do the
just
hokey
fucking yeah, that or example example of what I've seen as well is players specifically spellcasters being really loose with how fucking spell radius or spell like the radius of their effects work. Every time they'll use a different fucking angle. Well, actually, I'm using angle 7 this time. It's like we use angle 1 the entire fucking time, or like, well, this 20-foot radius is a little different. It kind of works a little bit better. It's like, bro, you have to pick one of these. You can't just literally be like, no, this I'm doing like this, DM. I'm doing like this. I'm doing it differently, so it's a different angle. It's like, no, man, bro, that's not how fucking these radiuses work, bro. Because
20-foot radius, but I'm gonna flatten it out so it's just 40 left and right.
So like instead of horizontally, it's going vertically.
Holy! So
I'm
this
gonna try
cylinder
that
is,
next time.
and so this cylinder is going to be perpendicular to the ground at a 96-degree angle. So we're going to hit all of these guys right on here.
Instead of like straight vertical, it's going to be like on that.
In session 0, I usually, that's one of the rules for me anyway, is like if there are any arguments about a rule, you're just going to have to move on and take it offline. There's just going to be times the DM is the arbiter of the rules and we interpret it a certain way. There's plenty of times where I've made a bad call. I'm like, you know what, you're right. But for the story, let's not sidetrack for 47 minutes arguing about, a hypotenuse calculator. Well, actually, he's 27 feet, so carry this. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work. Figure something else out, or,
Right.
Yeah, that's where players have to be okay accepting no.
It's like no, and then if you hear no, it's like, how dare you?
Why?
How dare you?
Well,
you fucking.
I rarely get that. Usually, I get the hypotheticals. I've had multiple players like, if I did this thing and if I cast it this way and it did this certain thing and I'm like, well, are you doing that? He's like, no, I just want to know if it works that way. I'm like, that's not how life works.
You have to find out if it works.
It's like hypothetically, if I go to college and get this degree, will I get the job at Goldman Sachs? I just want to know before I do it.
Are you casting a divination spell or?
Yeah,
it's like that's not how life works. It's like so if I shoot my shot at any of these ladies here in this bar, which one will be successful? It's like, how that work exactly? Like, do I just?
I'm not. The DM is not God. There are some things that we just do not know.
Right. No.
But when I'm playing, go ahead.
Well, I would know.
You take the time to interpret the rules, though, and you guys are, as a player, you should be able to just take that no. I mean, we've had a situation in a previous game where it's like, hey, I should be. Can I use it this way? In game, it was no, that doesn't work that way. Okay, cool. Then I'm going to do this, and then came back and as a DM, come back after the game and go, you know what? I was wrong. It was even proven by Matt Colville or whoever that the way that you had actually said to do it was correct. We'll use that going forward. All right, cool. No big deal. Thanks for letting me know.
Simple.
But it's okay.
It's fine. Like you just, it's a freaking game. This, move on.
It is a
game.
You
hurt my feelings. I've been only for this shit. It's like, holy man. And Kathleen, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry, you guys gonna say something, Kathleen. What were you gonna say?
I forgot.
Sorry,
John.
Sorry.
We're free flowing now. I don't know. People, I think you just have to be mature and just be an adult. There are kids who play the game, and there's going to be some of that, but it is a game at the end of the day. I've seen people upset and
cry.
Take a step back. Just take a step back. It is a game at the end of the day. You don't have to worry about all this stuff. If I made a mistake, let's talk it out. If you made a mistake, I'm going to address it. There's just I think people are afraid. I'm in a lot of D&D communities, and they're like, so I've got this situation, and the first thing is like, did you talk to them?
It's like, yeah.
No, it's too much. I don't want to offend them. Like, are they a 3-year-old? Go ahead.
So that brings up a question. Because it is a game, can you lose at D&D?
Holy.
Yes,
say,
You
sort of.
can.
I would say
You can fail to achieve your
No,
own. You can fail to
I would
achieve
say
your
no.
own goal.
If you're
As a
making
character, you should
everybody
have
else
your own.
miserable
unless the
in
D&D
yourself, you're losing.
No, that's
There it
being a
is.
Yeah,
that's
if you're
being
not
a
having fun.
loser. That's being a loser, though. It's not like losing, though. Like, you're just losing a lot consecutively. Like, you're just losing, but like you're still
Yeah.
like until the DM kicks you out. I don't think you really lost, but when he kicks you out, you're not really playing anymore. Maybe it could be me. It's like
Now,
winning.
see,
It's like
I-
winning.
I-
the game. You can't really
I had
win
to ask the question because you start talking about rules arbitration, and again, it's kind of what do you consider losing? What's the definition of losing when it comes to D&D? Like,
When
I
somebody
think
kicks
it's-
you off
I
the
think it's-
fucking table. That's what
Well, I
I
think
think.
it's
you lost the
I think it's
game.
personal. I think it's personal. You can fail to do something. You're like, okay, this doesn't work out, or you just straight up die. That's you lost the game when you die. I don't care.
The
No
player
one's
lost. Did the player lose though, or did just the character die? Is that losing? Because is that losing
you
really?
lost. Yes.
You lost a life. You gotta
No,
start at the
man.
beginning
But
again.
that's
But
not
what
if-
losing though.
but-
It's just like a setback.
but that's the thing.
100%.
What if that death propels the story forward in an extremely good way? Is that losing the game then?
Well,
That's
if
what I'm
you
saying, it's not
if you
losing.
self-sacrifice yourself, obviously that's not. But if you just die, you're like, hey, I'm gonna open this door that's obviously trapped, dead. Yeah, well, that sucks to say.
Okay, but that's just see, like this is why I'm really like, I guess, really hard on the word lose in D&D, because then if you're really loose with losing, then it's really loose with winning too, right? And we all seen players win or feel like they're winning in D&D. Like, my player has 28 AC, it cannot be hit in any circumstances. Haha, DM. Fuck you, bitch.
No, I think I think
you know,
winning and losing, you guys are thinking of it like too binary. This isn't the game of Sorry where there's only one objective. There's
Right.
multiple.
That's
You can
true.
lose
That's
and
true.
fail multiple times or win.
It's way
degrees.
too objective of a term or
like-
subjective of a term.
My goal for this session is to, I don't know, convince this guy or try to finish this quest. We have to go and assassinate this person. That's what I plan to do. It may fail. I lost in this situation, but did I
What?
lose overall?
Kayla, she hasn't rubbed the lamp the last 2 sessions. She's
Is
winning.
I would say the rest of
losing or
us at
winning?
least are winning. I don't know how she
Yeah.
feels about it.
I don't know how she feels about it. That's what I'm saying. But and this is what I think, for me at least, I guess losing is subjective. Something winning is objective, right? Because having a good time could be fun to you, or it could be just mopping up everything in the combat. That could be and we in our tech assassination here telling us that you lose the
Yeah.
D&D when it's so sorry. No, fuck that shit. No, you don't. You don't lose when you get kicked out. That's I die on that hill. If you can't tell a story together, make new characters, and you're still playing, right?
Yep, next.
I don't think you lose. I don't think you lose because as a DM, if I ever feel like the story isn't being told or story isn't being told, there's going around fucking murdering shit. Hey, so the new campaign is who can kill the party? Dun 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 dun. And it's fucking people from all over the fucking Ferelden, fucking Star Wars, all come over from the multiverse and be like, all right, you guys are demigods, that's right. But can you beat fucking Goku and Beerus? All right, let's find out, bitch. Cracks knuckles. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I haven't really. That's just me though. I'm a little crazy, guys. So, yeah. So that's just fucking me.
I think
don't-
if you're just not having fun,
not having
Yeah.
fun is accurate. If you're having fun, then that's anything though. That's
consistently,
story,
Story,
though?
though.
consistently,
is it
like
a story though.
yeah, that's not a story. That's just
Killing
abuse.
shit.
Yeah, this is abuse at that
That's
point.
what I'm saying. It's a story though.
But
is it
I've
losing?
I've had games where it just wasn't fun. Like there's a particular problem player, or someone was distracted.
Oh,
Online play, I've had somebody who's like, while in combat, he's doing a raid in WoW, and it's very obvious. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, where are we? What's going on? I'm like, this can't happen.
Yes.
You got to pick
No.
one or the other.
Yeah,
And if you're not that engaged, like, that's cool, and you're not gonna hurt my feelings.
Yeah, just be like, man, listen, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just not really feeling tonight. And I'll just, I'll kill next time. Just be honest. Like I said, but then again, like Mason, I have fallen asleep during the session, and also I've run before. This is how this has happened before. This is an accurate statement. But I try to give a disclaimer. I'm like, guys, it's a long ass day.
I just
may
worked
or may
26
not-
hours straight.
Falling
I
asleep is
may or may
different
not-
though. Like,
yeah, because I'm actually trying to because you know me as a player. I try to actually engage with the story while I'm awake. I'm not just sitting there like, okay, whatever, guys, good. That's different than me just like
I mean, you physically pass out, but I've
Yeah,
seen games where people are like playing around like Call of Duty in the background. You're
Yeah,
like,
I remember that.
what
I
are
remember
you
that.
doing?
It's like this guy's folding his laundry, doing his tactics, trying
Yeah.
to index his
Multitasking is one
fucking.
thing, but if it's like what's going on? Where are we? It's like, what are you even here
Dude.
for at this
Like,
point?
why? Why are
Yeah.
you here?
Exactly.
And I guess I'll wrap this up with a point here, guys. It's the final point. So you know about a lot of things. Some of it DMing, some of it players, but I'll ask this of all you here. If you could give one good and positive, if you can give one thing to expiring DMs to do, or maybe a mistake you've done as a DM, what would it be and why? It can be positive or negative, something that you've done that you don't want to do, or something like that. And we'll start with John. Something that you may have done or you want to see aspiring DMs do.
I think Kathleen said it best. Just be okay with letting go of the story you want to tell. The best way to prep, in my experience, is to have settings, characters in the world that have motivations, and that's really it. Settings and characters with motivations, they're going to act around whatever happens, regardless of what happens, and leave it loose of that. If you want particular cutscenes and story beats and characters that interact in certain ways, it's not going to happen because, and you're going to waste your time. So keep it loose. I would say figure out how to improv a little bit. Maybe take a class. I don't know, but just thinking on your feet. And one thing from improv that I've learned is yes and. It's like, okay, yes and let's do this. Sometimes you do have to say no. It's like that's not going to work.
That's too far.
So instead of yes and no but.
Yeah. But yes and what else is going to go? And people really appreciate that if you're always stonewalling what they're doing. So just be loose. Don't worry about every single detail. It's
I agree.
A lot of tips, but
all right. That was like, but all right.
Like
so fair enough. Hey, listeners, tips all the same. Good shit. We go over next to Jason, tell someone, give us a tip. You give a new player, a new DM. Just me being a player yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't DM'd, but again, writing a kind of a campaign thing. I think the biggest tip is to take everything as it comes, both as a player and as a DM. Just kind of sit back, go with the flow, and on top of that, just figure out what you like early and move towards finding that, whatever that is, versus trying to pigeonhole a single person or a single group into what you want.
Great. And then we go over to Kathleen. What is your one thing you give to aspiring DM?
Yeah, so my tip would be don't get so fixated on the rules. Like, you don't have to follow the book verbatim. You're the DM. It's your space that you're creating with your players. It's okay to adapt and change it to however you guys prefer, or just whatever fits you guys. You don't have to be verbatim on the rules.
I agree. And the one tip I would say is is really common, I guess, tip, but only allow one person to do a fucking skill check. For the love of God, please, one person to do a skill check. If not, then don't even have them roll skill checks anymore. Just say, you guys, just do the task.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. Just if there's no consequence to do it, then why even have a skill check to begin with?
Yeah, just say you're doing like you're searching the room, because like during the game, I'd be like, if you had a searching the room, I'd be like, okay, guys, this looks fun. And then I have people investigate further. Like I have Omen, or the boss, or do something, investigate further to find specific stuff. But you guys are you guys all actively searching. This is what you actively find together, right? This is what it is. But I've seen DMs, and this has to the consequence part. This is the last part here, where you go ahead and search, and you search. Well, that wasn't high enough. Try again. And again. So as at a point, like, why even have them roll if you're just gonna? It's just time to succeed. Then just tell them how long they succeed at the task, and just be done with it.
Mhm.
So we in there. Guys, if you like this, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And remember, guys, listen, you keep on swimming. Getting bad, you fuck up. We all fuck up. I fuck up a lot. I forget shit all the time. NPC names, I write them down. I forget them. That's why I like, yo, what's his name? What's the tavern again? I'm looking
This
at
is
my
why I
list,
take
like,
notes.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes improv can get you. I've like prices. They're like, what? It was two silver pieces last week.
Holy
Inflation.
Inflation.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the special price. I'm sorry. We're not on special today. You
This
know,
They
city
so,
has
roll
a
over
different
every
tax.
Tuesday.
right. So I say all that stuff to say we love you guys. Peace, love, and chicken grease. Be easy. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.